Hello and welcome. We're coming to you from Facebook Live and we're stuck in the middle of isolation, something we've had to put up with for a while now, and it's disrupted our business a little bit. But what I want to talk to you today about is our Paddock to Plate farm tours. It's an experience where we bring you onto our farm and we talk to you about good quality beef, how it's grass fed, we talk about feedlots, we talk about grain feeding, we talk about all the different breeds of cattle and sheep, and we give you the experience of what good meat is and how it's produced. And when you come to cook one of those pies that I'm going to show you later, how you put good ingredients into them. So we begin with my parents, who bought a farm 1 kilometre down the road, which was 200 acres. Dad planted a paddock of cabbages and paid for his farm in 12 months. And so began our journey. I was born in '59 and I became a farmer at 5 years of age. And I worked with my dad on the farm until I went to school and just lived the farm life. It was fantastic as a kid. As I grew up, I became a wash boy in Dad's new butcher shop he'd bought. And at 16, I began my career as a butcher, which lasted 45 years. It was a great life, hard work, and I worked on the fact that if I could work twice as hard as everyone else, I'd earn twice as much money, which was good and it worked. We've had many trying times, losing money, making money, but that's a business, isn't it? In recent years, my son, who finished school and became a refrigeration mechanic, left that field and came into the butcher shop. And he has now taken over running the shop, which has allowed me to spend my whole time on the farm. And that's where my passion is. He's taken the shop forward, he's opened an extra shop in Moss Vale, and we're going on to bigger and better things. And we're still selling that quality meat that we've been producing since the 1940s. And it's a 3-generation business, and it's a great thing. And from in that business, we started a catering business which lasted 30 years, and my wife became an expert cook. And I must say I'd rather eat at home than go out to dinner because she is one hell of a cook, that woman. From there, my son has taken over the reins of the shop, and we've got caught in coronavirus and all this, and we've had to adjust by setting up online ordering and all that. You can simply phone us or email us and the meat will be delivered to your door in a cool room box. There's no touching hands or anything like that. Everything is kept as clean as possible, and it's so easy for you, you don't even have to leave your house. So this is a hind quarter of beef off an animal similar to the ones that we're going to look at outside. There's a funny bit hanging off the end. I'll take it first. That's the automatic fly getting rid of device that cows use to keep themselves happy. And this is not used so much nowadays. Oxtail. My mum used to cook a beautiful oxtail soup, and all you have to do is nip the joints, throw that into a pot of water, add some veggies, you boil it for 2 to 3 hours. The lower the temperature, the better. The slower the cook, the more tender it is, and that'll make you a beautiful oxtail soup. From there, we'll take off the flank, and I'll just move around here so everyone can see. And this flank is basically only used for mince and sausages. There is a thing on there called skirt steak, which was very popular in the old days because it was a very stringy type of meat, and it made a really nice casserole or stew. Some people nowadays say you can fry or grill skirt steak, but that's not my belief. Now this animal we've got here is an Angus, which weighs about 180 kilos dressed, which would equate to 360 kilos live weight. And from that 360 kilos, you basically get to 1/3 is saleable cuts of meat. So I'm going to remove the rump and loin, which is all your best cuts, from your butt. Not your butt, this cow's butt. enough to crack that bone, which it is. Now these animals are about 18 months of age, and you can process them older and you can process them younger, but in my opinion 18 months is your ace age. They have a beef taste and you have the flavour, but you also have the grass in them that gives them plenty of flavour as well. Now this is your choice: rump, fillet, T-bone, sirloin steak. We'll just remove the rump and we'll bone it out for you. Okay. When Father's Day comes around, one of them would be lovely for Dad. A beautiful T-bone, grass-fed, free range. Now, all these animals that I process are all grass-fed. And we've just begun the journey of biodynamic farming, which means you're eating healthy food, but while the animals are growing, they're going to be eating healthy, natural food. The fertilisers I use are now becoming natural fertilisers. So there is not even chemical fertilisers going into these cattle and sheep. Now, if you're looking for the dearest piece of meat on an animal, you've just found it. Fillet steak. This muscle does no work whatsoever, so it's very tender. Fillet steak is the most tender, but it's Fillet steak is the most tender, but it's also the most expensive. And it is covered in fat, which you can trim off. And some people like to leave the fat on because fat is flavour. Okay, so that's a fillet. And that is the most tender part that's the choicest cut of meat on beef. And from there, we'll just go to the rump, which is one of my favourite steaks. I must say, when I was a younger lad, I was a little bit quicker than what I am now.
There's no hurry.
There's no
hurry. Working with sharp objects, there's no hurry.
Yes, we do carry band-aids, it's all right. Okay. Now, as I said, fat is flavour, so you definitely want fat on your meat. And you get fat on meat from the British type of cattle. If you want leaner meat, you use the European cattle. They're bred for more muscle, leaner meat, and they're suited to feedlots because they can put a lot of bulk on without fat. But you forgo tenderness and you forgo flavour with those cattle. So we'll just take a quick first cut off. And that's the beginning of your rump steak. Now you get about 6 to 8 slices off a rump, but when you get down to these little end ones, they're the choice cuts. Point of rump. Tell your butcher you're after a point of rump steak and you'll be very happy. Okay, so we've got some lesser cuts here. And all these little bits come off and they're used for mince, or they're used for sausages, or they're used for dicing. And that means slow cook type thing. So a typical cut like this, which is a lean piece of meat, this is what we use in our pies. And this goes through the mincer just once. And when people make pies, they may do chunky, which is something like that. That's a chunky. Or you mince it up completely, and that's the way we prefer to do it. We do a mince pie. And they're made of minced meat and onion and other flavours, like all pies are. But the difference in our pie is, of course, the cow that was running around before this pie was made was eating grass. And he was living in a healthy environment, and we know he was, and that's good for us, and it's good for the cow, because that's how we feel about it. So all this lean stuff, it's minced up, and then the pie process starts. And of course we're not the mass-produced pies, it's all handmade and in artisan style. Not a massive production, but what we make we know are nice. And along with the beef ones, we also make chicken, but unfortunately I can't chase chickens around like I used to, so we don't have chickens, so we have to buy them. But the beef is guaranteed tender in those pies, as you will no doubt taste at lunchtime. So now I've showed you what we're up to from the butchery department. Let's go out and meet the real stars of the show, the cattle and the sheep, and we'll do a little bit more talking about the breeds and things like that. I'm going to show you some cattle and you'll notice the different colours. We've got black, they're called Angus. We've got a red one, that's called a Hereford. There is a black one in there with a white face that you'll see in a minute. That's the mixed breed of a Hereford and Angus. It's called a black baldy. And we've got a couple of grey cattle, different coloured greys. They're called Murray Greys. Now a Murray Grey is an Australian breed. The Angus are a breed that's been built up over the last 50 years. Hereford was the dominant breed, Angus are now. Now the idea with the cattle I buy, I try to buy smaller cattle, smaller frame cattle. These ones you would consider small frame, and they'd weigh around 360 to 380 kilos live weight when they're ready to go and get processed. I look for shape, I look for breed, and most importantly I look for temperament, because temperament is a very important part of tender meat. From there, as we were in the butcher shop before, aging the meat once you've processed it is very important as well. So if you buy a steak from our retail butcher shop, it'll be around 6 weeks old before you get to cook that steak. You don't need any more time than that, but that's optimum. 6 weeks on a nice rump steak on the grill, wowee, you've got something nice. So these animals here, they all roam the paddocks here. There's 300 acres and they're all fed grass. I buy them as smaller animals than this from the local sale at Moss Vale, or I travel to Yass or surrounding sales, and I pick up a load of 20 or 30 and I bring them home and I drench them. And then they get sorted into mobs and they go out onto the pasture where they just travel from paddock to paddock, eating the best grass there is. Once they've reached the processing age, I get them into a mob of 30 and they come into the holding paddock and they're given a bit of hay or silage just to keep them at their weight. And then I deliver them personally to the abattoir where they're processed and brought back to the butcher's shop. Say if this was the mob of cattle I bought, they're drenched. Once I've done my job on them, I move them down into the paddocks. And that is their view for around the next 6 to 8 months. They just travel from paddock to paddock and they go that way for about 2 kilometres, but they've just got this beautiful view to look at. If they get thirsty, they go down the dam or the creek and have a drink. If they get hot, they can sit under a tree. It's just a nice lifestyle for them. Shoes. Little fella, me lad. Go on, in you get. Come on, go forward. No, I'll leave them two. 3. Okay, now, What I've got in here is a bunch of sheep. Now there are mixed breeds, but they're mainly second cross. And second cross are the good shapy sheep. They have rounded legs rather than long lanky ones. And all these sheep are lambs, which means they have milk teeth. Once they're around 2 years old, they lose their two small molars at the bottom of their mouth and they get two new teeth. That's when they become a hogget. And around 12 months or a bit longer than that, each year after that, their teeth fall out and they get their second teeth. Once they've got 4, they're getting into the mutton stage. And mutton then is normally exported overseas to poorer countries that can't afford the top quality meat. These lambs are top quality and they're all grass fed. And when I buy lambs, I try to buy them with no wool on them. So shorn lambs. I've had these ones for around 6 months, so they've grown another coat, but that doesn't matter. The coat keeps them cooler in summer. We usually make beef pies, which are from the animals above, which I just showed you, but there's no reason why you can't make a lamb pie. Now all you need is some diced shoulder of lamb, or get your butcher to mince you up some lamb, so that at some stage you can then produce yourself a nice lamb pie. And you can add your rosemary and your different herbs and spices, but to remember to slow cook. In this pie salation time that we are in, you can always cook a nice lamb pie. And if you happen to look on our website, we have a lamb Moroccan pie. We don't retail them, but we do have the recipe there for you. And it is a really nice pie as well. Yeah, this was all my dad's, all this land. It was actually 600 acres. And on his passing, when Mum and Dad passed, my brother and I split the farm and got 300 each. And so I had a butcher shop and was growing my own beef, just like Dad did. Unfortunately, I got married and had some kids and I got an heir to take over the butcher shop. I got too old for it. The time came to sell or what to do or close it down. Matt said, no Dad, I'm taking over it, I'm the next generation. So the third generation of butcher is in that shop. And it's come from a time when my dad was learning to be a butcher and he used to go around on a horse and cart. That's how he started butchering. They used to just slice the meat off the back of the cart and supply the customer. And then as Dad got older, he left the meat game and went into farming. And in 1972, when the bum fell out of the cattle price and there was a depression in meat prices, he decided to open up another shop, and that began Mauger's Meats. And I started working with Dad when I was 16, and 2 years into the game, at 18, Dad had a heart attack and had to leave the butchery industry because they thinned his blood and he couldn't handle the cold weather. So I became manager of Mauger's Meats at 18. I didn't have business coaches or anything like that. I just learnt by going broke and having no money, and then working and making money. And that went on and off for about 15 years until we started the catering business. And then from that point on, we never looked back. It was just idea after idea on how to make money. And up until the time I got too old for it, the back was giving out and the son took over, and it was up to him to come up with ideas. And he's just gone through the coronavirus. But he also had a business coach which helped him a little bit, and he had all the plans in foot to start online ordering and all this. So overnight we started an online ordering business, and away he went. So he's going to survive the coronavirus okay. If you look at this land just down here, this is where our farm went to, down here, the big farm. This is my son's property now, my brother's property, sorry. He runs his cattle, and he's got a cattle carting business, and he also works part-time with Livestock at Moss Vale. He's a great cattle buyer. You never get sick of these views, do you? Southern Highlands has got some magnificent views. Out here at Robertson, where we get an inch of rain a week on average, it's always green. I remember going on a holiday to England, and we got there in dark, and I woke up and looked out the window and thought, what the hell, I'm back in Robertson. That's how it was. And we've seen a lot of good things over there, but there's just as many good things over here. So I'm going to show you where we make these pies. One of our beef pies. We're heading into our butcher shop, where we hope to have one in the oven for us, and we'll give it a sample and I'll let you know what it's like. So I brought you over to Burrowing, to our butcher shop, our little butcher shop. We have one in Moss Vale, of course. But this is where we make the pies. We're going to go inside, and I'm going to take a mouthful, and you'll know what they're like by the look on my face. Woo, it's hot. Now this is what we produce. This is a beef pie. Now remember I said we've got a recipe for the lamb pie on our website. So if you want to use lamb you can. But this is a beef and mushroom pie with an old ancient recipe that a very good friend of mine created. Her name's Vicky. She's my wife. She's not that old because she's the same age as me. So Matt, you've eaten a few of these pies in your time. What do you reckon?
They're not bad. They go all right.
And do you sell many of them?
Yeah, about 150, 200 a week.
Okay. They're not a bakery pie, they're a specialised pie. They're both, it's made on all puff, isn't it? Puff bottom, puff top.
Yep.
All right, well let's have a go at this thing and see what you reckon. Now follow the face, you'll know what it's like. We can still do it, don't worry about that. So, although we're in isolation now, it's not going to last forever. And we'll be up and running and have our tours going, and you can come from anywhere. And if it's a little bit far for you to travel, we've also got our farm stay here where you could make a whole weekend of it and stay in the farm stay. It's up to you, just come to the tour, just come to the farm stay. We're all available, and it's a great place to be. And as far as I'm concerned, it's the best place on earth to live. But it's up to you. You're always welcome. Thank you very much for coming today and enjoying what we have with us, and I'll see you sometime. Bye.